Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where I get to do one of my favorite things, which is talk to founders in the food and beverage space, especially founders that are on a mission and have a great story. So thank you for joining us today on the Firebelly Social Show. You're in for a truly inspiring conversation with Grant Hemingway, the creative force between Libby Wines. And if you're asking yourself, well, what is Libby Wines? It's a sparkling non-alcoholic wine that's redefining, what modern moderation and celebration can look like. So it's inclusive at its core. This episode is made possible by Firebelly Marketing, where we help mission-driven food and beverage brands grow, connect, and thrive through the power of social. If you're ready to turn your brand story into real community engagement, head over to firebellymarketing.com. So today's guest is Grant, as I said, Hemingway, an unstoppable force in the wine world. I mean, real pedigree. He's the founder of the company, Sparkling Non-Alcoholic Wine, and he's had an 18-year journey in wine. And for those of you that are watching the video, you're going to think like this guy started when he was 12. But he's managed vineyard operations for Far Niente. He launched EG Wine Company. He's run the wine and spirits division in Molson Coors. So he's been all over the map, and he's on a mission to shake up the status quo. So with no further ado, Grant, thanks for coming. I'm so excited to have you.
For sure. Thanks, Duncan. Appreciate the audience and excited to jump in.
Yeah, man, you've been in wine for a couple of minutes. What was the driving force that you said, I'm gonna make this new thing called Libby?
Well, I mean, you mentioned minutes. I actually count my career in harvest because that's how we annualize things in the wine industry. But it's been 18 harvests for me in the industry. And as you alluded to, I've definitely held a variety of roles. And I think it's part of the foundation where I felt confident to launch Libby was just the vineyard management leading into winemaking, leading into general management, selling brands, managing large teams. I felt it was a good moment for me to partner with my co-founder, John Green, who's based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who's another beverage entrepreneur. But really the inspiration or guiding light behind Libby was watching this moderation pendulum, if you will, start to gain significant momentum. And as we looked at the wine category, didn't really see a lot of high qualitative benchmarks out there. So I got to really lean into surveying the landscape of available grapes, winemaking styles. Hopefully we can dive into some of the production methodology. But at the end of the day, the NA wine category was void of something that we could the industry could hang their hat on and say, that's a good glass of wine with or without the alcohol.
That's awesome. And I think you're absolutely right, with the pendulum. I mean, we all know that, alcohol has been around for thousands of years, and it'll continue. But there is this new inclusive force where not everyone wants to drink. People that are drinking don't want to drink as much. People are drinking differently. And it's a sure sign that everybody can be at an occasion or an event and have a glass to hold with the beverage of their choice.
Yeah, we'd call them chameleons in the past, right? Like the person that's got the lime in the soda water or something like that they almost feel like they are trying to cloak the fact that they weren't drinking. And there was a cultural, taboo about, what are people going to think? And what's the questions that I'm going to get? Why aren't you drinking? That seems to have 180 entirely. And I think, within my career in the wine industry, it's really kind of one of those first times that there's like a cultural tailwind behind us, this shift, this paradigm consumer shift driving this non-alcoholic movement, whether it's beer or mocktails or functional beverages. It is a really fun environment to be launching into. But I do think that there is still a large segment of the audience that has habitual ties to the wine drinking experience And it's a really difficult thing to give up. And there's a multitude of occasions that apply there. But I also think people are starting to question their relationship with alcohol, both in a positive and a negative way. What is it delivering? What is it taking away? And there's just a large amount of conversation going on at present. And it's not to, like, I will be the first to admit, I am not sober, but I am very much in that sober curious segment, or
Yes.
the moderator. And I do think that there's a place and time for alcohol, absolutely. But with Libby, I just felt like my wife and I, we have two young kids. It was an aha moment. It was like, whoa, like we're just not drinking a lot of wine anymore. You start to question, like, why? Why aren't we drinking as much? And it was lifestyle for us, right? It was wanting to, health and wellness was a priority. But then we have the two young kids, and they're waking up at odd hours in the night, and it was really a conflict with our lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, and shout out to Laura Silverman, Zero Proof Nation, who we both know and are friends with, and Ian Blessing and Brooks Addington and Sierra Thomas, all our friends who are carrying this mission forward. And it really is a mission, right? And you're right. Whether I remember being in the early days, meaning 6 years ago, of the plant-based food movement, and over
Yes.
time, a client and Abbott's as a wonderful brand, and they've really blown up. And the point was, hey, we don't want to convince people to stop drinking. That is not our job. We want to give people an option so that when they are considering not eating meat, they have something real, right? And that's the point. Is like, hey, you could be a zebra striper, no problem, right? If
Yeah.
you want to go someplace and you're drinking, bourbon for the first two drinks, and then you're switching over to Vibe for your next few drinks, and you're getting some adaptogens and botanicals. Awesome, do what you want, but at least you have a choice, and it's not a shitty Shirley Temple choice from like 20 years ago. It's like, what do you got? I got like some orange juice and I got a Shirley Temple, and it's like that's all you had. And so you stood there, as you said, kind of like worried that what if your client or your friend saw you standing there with water and a lime, and then you
Right.
get social pressure.
Correct. Yeah, and it's just such an exciting time to be like take myself out as a founder, but as a consumer and just a beverage enthusiast, just to watch the sheer amount of innovation, different flavor exploration, and all how it ties into this non-alcoholic movement, because there is no better time than now to be a consumer, and the amount of options. And I do think it's right of the consumer to be asking for options that don't make them compromise.
Yeah.
And that's where I think quality will always win out. Yes, I mean you can do wonders with marketing and stuff, but I think at the end of the day, the brands that have longevity and staying power are going to be ones that are obsessed with quality as a product first mentality. And that's absolutely what we set out from the get with Libby.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm reminded of Vanessa from Tilden saying something that really was amazing. She was like, "Hey, just because it's a non-alcoholic drink doesn't mean it can't be phenomenal. It doesn't mean that people don't want a beginning, a middle, and an end to the drink, right? It's like it can't taste shitty and be a NA wine because no one's going to buy it."
You might get them once, but you're not going to fool them twice. And I think for us, when we started to survey the landscape, I really felt like there was an opportunity to introduce a wine that was almost judged on its principles as a wine, not because it was non-alcoholic, but because it delivered on the aromatics that you expected, or the flavor profile that you know and expect and love from wine, or the acidity and that backbone there, or the balance and the texture and the complexity. All of that needs to show through in the final product. And so to your point, like I was very diligent in making sure that we had the right entrance, the right aromatics jumping out of the glass. And then it was not just about the entry, but it was the mid-mouth, and then it was the finish. Like everything for us was dissected and almost deconstructed. It was the most fun I have ever had as a winemaker. And I say winemaker because like I still got to deploy a lot of the traditional tactics of what grapes are we going to use? Because I have a vision for what the profile, the aromatics and the brightness should taste like. Then it was the primary fermentation. All right, we need to coax everything we can out of this, this primary fermentation. Then it was a new one for me, the alcohol removal process, bringing it back down to zero, understanding that there are a multitude of ways you can do that, but also what are we losing in that process? Finally, it was like, how can we replace what we have lost so that the end result has you questioning, is there alcohol in this or not? Because that is the goal, right? I want a true replacement value that is uncompromising. And so we took 18 months really to like figure out every step of the way. And the reception has just been overwhelmingly positive. And I think we looked outside of the category and saw, one of the brands that just we continue to be inspired by, Athletic Brewing, did a phenomenal job at nailing. If I poured for you a can or into a pint glass of a West Coast IPA from Athletic, 9 out of 10 consumers just would think they're drinking a delicious West Coast IPA. And we needed to set that watermark for ourselves, and feel like we've achieved that with Sparkling White and the Sparkling Rosé. And the reception at retail has been strong, and the distributor wholesale network is very hungry for incrementality. They are feeling the effects of kind of a regression in their core business being alcohol. But it's really exciting to see the look on people's faces when they connect the dots and they finally taste it and they go, oh my God, you've cracked a code.
Yes, yes. And that's actually what I heard. One of our good friends who lives in Sherman Oaks was saying, hey, I originally came upon Libby because it has very low sugar.
Right.
And once I started drinking it, I was like, I love it. It's so good. And I can have 6 glasses and I can still take my kid to volleyball tomorrow.
There you go.
And
that's what I was talking about like the multitude of occasions where people are starting to realize, that maybe it is the Tuesday night cooking, or maybe it's, the brunch that you realize you do have something after it, or it's the happy hour with the team, but you have to go to a workout in 30 minutes. Like all of these occasions, typically where you would potentially reach for a glass of wine, you can now do it and not have the consequences, that rear itself in the morning or in that night. You got to drive, like so many different. And I think it's just a really exciting time for this product in this period to be hitting the market, because we are seeing the retail turns. We've got some great retail partners: HEB, Trader Joe's, Fresh Time, Sprouts Farmers Market. All of them were super encouraged to jump on board very quickly, which in my 18 years, it takes time. Right? You got to have data behind you. You can't just like, hope and a whim that this thing is going to hit the shelves. But what you clued into on the sugar thing is also really interesting. I think label readers, we'll call them label readers, right? Like we are now becoming, I have a 7-year-old who's now like, I think taking observations from me, turning and looking at packages. He's asking me questions like, Dad, how many calories are in that? Or is there any added sugar? I'm like, a 7-year-old asking me about that. It's conditions, man. Like I just really feel like we should not compromise. We should look at things and hold suppliers accountable for clean inputs and ask questions. What's your supply chain like? Right? Like, are you using sustainably farmed grapes? Are you using gluten-free or vegan-friendly products? We have the capacity on the supply side to address the consumer desire, the modern consumer desires. And it's about when and where do you promote that?
Yeah, yeah. And a little bird told me that I got to ask you why the name Libby.
So yes, not my 7-year-old, not their name, but no, Libby was a word smash of light and bubbly. Boom. So it really helped us define, I think, right out of the gates, the product expectation. But also, this day and age, it is naming a brand as a multi-time, founder and startup. It's challenging. A lot of the names are taken, trademarked, or have conflict, but Libby stood out to us as like a really simple, memorable name. that as you kind of understand the core product attributes and also just kind of what we're trying to achieve in a marketing, wine needs to lighten up. Wine needs to become more approachable. And so that kind of set the tone for us right out of the gates in kind of rallying behind what Libby is as a product and what Libby can stand for in the future.
That's amazing. I love it. And so there's no grandma or there's no like
No,
Bubby
no, it's
Liebenstein.
no, no. And I agree. Is it libation? Is it? I think there were some nice connotations to it right off the bat. Um, but no, it's not my daughter or my grandma.
And like speaking, you said the context and like not cutting corners, right? It's like you guys are using grapes from California,
Yes.
and y'all are doing a very intense process with the dealcoholized wine with
Yeah.
genuine grapes. You're not no shortcuts.
Yeah. I think the category was really asking for a winemaker to look at it and challenge themselves. Like I mentioned, this was the most fun I've had in a winemaking project. Admittedly, got to use a lot of like a different set of tools to really come up with the final product. But ultimately, it was about every step of the way being scrutinized, not wanting to cut corners, not wanting to be lazy and complacent and just say, it's good enough. Like it's non-alc, it's good enough. Just put it into market. That's not going to win. And so we really did a lot of homework. Like I said, it was a multi, year plus process for us to arrive at, what something we were proud of. And I want to continue to hold myself and the team accountable to that same level of quality as we look towards innovation, which we are starting the process now to, look beyond just the two initial launch SKUs of sparkling white and the sparkling rosé. I think the still wine category has a lot of upside. I think, we've already started looking at a variety of reds and a variety of white wines. I think it opens up a different challenge. Adding carbonation, sparkling element just takes on a different dimension when you're talking about the complexity of wine and the chemistry that happens when you inject. It's like a mixologist adding a sparkling floater to a cocktail and how much it changes, right? That same effect happens in wine. So when you eliminate the sparkling element, you have to contend with a whole nother ball of wax. So the R&D on our innovation side is ongoing. I think the world of wine offers a tremendous kind of foundation to really, and we're also looking at the category from a price tier. Does it have upward and premiumization? Can we start to, I mean, there's already brands out there testing this. Can we start to learn? Is there an appetite for a $30 bottle of NA? What does it need to taste like? What does it need to deliver? Where is it from? How's it marketed? Libby's going to hit the shelves, roughly speaking, depending on where you are in America, about $15. We felt like that was a really good entry point for people that were, exploring the NA category, very interested. We find this category to be very kind of adventurous consumers. I like to use the term omnivoric, meaning like they're not just a loyalist to one product. They're looking at this NA set and saying, you know what, like I kind of want to try this Kin Euphorics, or I want to try the new NA beer from the local craft guy. Tonight I'm feeling like an NA wine. Like there's this kind of adventurous spirit to them that's encouraging, difficult to build loyalty in, but nevertheless, like a very exploratory mindset.
I mean, and I love that. I love that approach that, hey, listen, people are prepared to pay for quality, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't remember exactly. I think I paid $35 for a bottle of Tilden, and I served it at like a dinner for two couples, so my wife and I and another couple, and they did not know that it was non-alcoholic.
Right.
There was that, and they said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's an NA beverage." And they were like, "What, really?" And so I think the idea that you guys, like for example, you guys are putting so much quality, so much thinking, so much planning into your product. It's like people will pay for quality,
Yes.
and it's a matter of finding the right tribe, and it's a movement. that's gaining momentum. I mean, liquor sales are down. I think there were 20 wines across the category last year that grew, the entire category. So,
Nice.
and then we got disruptors, right? We got cannabis, we got hemp, we got CBD, we got all this stuff. And so I think bringing a quality product to the table and it has some joy around it, your brand is super cool. You seem to be about, the light. And I think there's a wonderful space for that. I love it.
Yeah, I can say, within the wholesale landscape and predominantly using, the wine and spirit, traditional wine and spirits wholesalers, this is refreshing for them to see something with growth, to see something that is getting, new real estate, bringing in new bodies to the category. It is encouraging for them, and I want to be very empathetic to the fact that their core business for the last 20, 30 years has really thrived off the traditional alcohol brands. And it is tough. Like I've never seen this type of regression, certainly at this pace, but it is about a new frontier. And to your point, I mean, I think you were at Expo West as well.
Yes.
Yeah, like I walk away from that and I say entrepreneurship is alive and well, man. Like
Yeah.
there are so many people taking the swing, which is just it's invigorating and inspiring to see the ingenuity and combinations and branding. Like the CPG space is just so fun, just full stop. And then you see what people are really challenging themselves to do. I mean, the functional space is a wild west right now.
I know.
And like, is it blending? Like we have conversations internally, like, does functional enter into wine? Like, is there combinations that make sense for wine in the wine occasion? And we are exploring those. Like, is there an adaptogenic combination that makes sense? Is it nootropic? Is it the wind up or the wind down? Like, I think that this is going to be a fun era for consumers to really like I said, question their relationship with alcohol, but not make compromises. You can be social, you can be active, you can be productive. All of these things that, I think the modern culture is asking of us, but it doesn't need, I guess I just didn't want to be missing anything by electing not to drink.
I think what I really loved the way y'all describe your mission and purpose is that we talk so much about occasion, right? With beverages and food. It's like, hey, you're missing, you're not thinking about the occasion, or you are thinking about the occasion and you're thinking too much about the occasion. But I also think like levity and celebration are kind of like occasion agnostic, right? I mean, there's always time. It's like, and well, I've started doing this thing where it's like, have a good day. I'm either have an NA cocktail or I'm gonna have a alcoholic cocktail, but I'm gonna like say, hey, you know what? Life is too short. I'm gonna celebrate. I don't need an occasion. I'm just gonna celebrate.
It's ritualistic, and I think some of the biggest challenges we've seen, me personally, with some of the consumers and even the media right now is I think they're questioning whether this is like a neo-prohibitionist anti-alcohol movement or if truly we are like how much beverage has in communal gatherings like ingratiate itself in terms of when we're at a barbecue, it's about the barbecue, but you'll have something in your hand like most of the time, right? And
Yes.
so I think it's about having choices at that point in time to stay involved, enjoy the session, and whether you have alcohol or not is really at the autonomy of the user. But you don't need to feel the pressure of needing to have alcohol in that occasion, and it's just so ingrained in
Yes.
our culture that I don't want to lose that. I don't want to feel like wine should have a part in the dinner table. Great. Does it need to have alcohol or not? I mean, that's up for debate right now.
And I think I'm going to attribute this quote to you. I'm gonna say drinking is social glue, right? It's like you got it in
Yes,
your hand, you're gonna hang out. You're gonna hang out by the fire, by the record player, by the Bluetooth, by the pool, wherever you want to be. You got that drink in your hand, right? So
that's right.
Grant, you were such a adventurous guy to me. What you are doing all these amazing things, like what fuels Grant Hemingway?
Oh, this is a good question. My wife talked to me about this too, because there is the grind of startup. is real. There is the roller coaster, the ebb and flow, the highs and the lows. But to me, like the wine industry is where I planted my flag. And I have always had this desire to innovate and progress the industry forward. A lot of this was driven by just the wins of my friends, predominantly outside of the industry, and really trying to usher wine into this new era. Did I know 10 years ago that my plight would not involve alcoholic wine? No way, right? Like I could never have foreseen that. But what drives me forward is yeah, this is going to sound strange. I had this connection. The reason I went to school for viticulture and enology was I'm very scientific and like chemistry minded, but I didn't want to end up in a lab. And so like I really wanted to still have that connection to nature. And so like wine allows me to have both that kind of spiritual relationship with Earth, Mother Earth, and growing grapes and being involved in the dirt and the farming, but then see it all the way through. And so to be able to eventually end up with a finished product, and you get to watch the consumers connect the dots and kind of give you that's all I want. Like that's all I want is someone to say, I can see how passionate you are about this cause, and I appreciate that you guys are just holistically focused on this movement. And we're starting to see it happen with Libby. Like that connection to the consumers is real, and it is validating. It's what I get up in the morning for. To have even just a shout out on Instagram saying, love this, best NA, like all of those comments are just what continues to fuel me. Like we are onto something. Let's continue to drive. And the team that I have behind me is phenomenal. Shout out to Team Libby to, drive this forward as a singular purpose. I think it's what's going to set us apart is that focus on driving NA wine to into the next era.
I mean, that was kind of a trick answer. I'm gonna ask that question in another way. So
Okay.
it's Sunday afternoon, everything's taken care of, and you have 1 hour or 2 hours to do whatever you want and relax. What do you do?
Dirt therapy, dude. Like dirt therapy is my thing. Gardening.
What is dirt therapy?
Dirt therapy, like getting your hands into the garden
Oh, nice.
and letting your mind just go anywhere. Like it's kind of what's it like just total disassociation. So yeah, sometimes there's a podcast on, no doubt. Maybe it'll be this one, right? Next time. But it is about, yeah, when I get an hour, that's a good question. It is definitely like I am seeking the outdoors. I am seeking that connection and yet wanting to just let my mind completely wander. The thoughts I have are wild, and whatever that is, whatever dirt therapy means to the listener, to yourself, like I think we all have that moment. It's like a Zen moment where you're just like, just let the mind just go in elsewhere.
That's super cool. I love it. Thank you for that very, very candid and original answer. And I like it that you take time for yourself. You won't believe how many founders I interview who like, what? No, I don't ever take downtime. What is downtime? And I'm like, well, if you don't take downtime, how are you going to look after your team, right? It's like, so, but bringing you back to Libby,
Yeah.
what's something about Libby, kind of like as we're wrapping up here, what's something about Libby that you're super excited about, that you want everyone to know about?
It's early days, but the insights from the first, we're 100 days old. That's the other thing that's just like so encouraging for me to just look back and say, wow, we're only 100 days old. It feels a lot longer than that, but it to me is a we're excited to expand markets. So we had our first 100 days test market, test retail, gave the shout out to some of those early retailers that were super supportive. But as we start to get, further and further, I just think that like on our marketing side, the brand partnerships that we've got in the pipeline are phenomenal. I think there's so much cross-pollination that can open up and start helping people understand, where NA wine can fit into their life. We do have some fun retail expansion on the horizon. And then there are moments throughout the year, I think, where there's a lot of shine on NA, whether it's dry January or sober October or dry. I mean, I feel like every month has a name for it now, which is encouraging because now it's just about 12 months of wellness. But the R&D is phenomenal. I think if I'm answering in a different way, I think our biggest challenge is prioritizing what we want to do and what we can't do. And like that is the aperture that's wide open for us. And I think just being a small team, being a young brand, I know a lot of founders are challenged with this. It's like I want to do everything, right? But like you can only do so much. And then to your point, you also got to take care of yourself. So that was maybe another trick answer, but there basically it's that like there is so much runway for us, and I think there's so much runway for the category.
Totally.
That, yeah.
And I think the other pieces is that, I love how you're very methodical, not just about the product, but also about building the brand, from the vineyards to the digital shelf, you seem to be very considered in terms of how you're doing things and fresh thinking. And so I think that, I almost feel like there's going to be more no's that are part of your journey than yeses, because everything is, in your favor and looking like an option. And, how do you prioritize and move forward into the next, 300 or 260 days?
Yeah. It's to me like the test and learn is part of the beauty of being in startup and not being afraid to fail, because it's not a failure. It's a learning.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times I found myself in certain environments where it was risk appetite was very low. And that is just something that you don't get when you're in that big environment, is the nimbleness and the like unabashed and unafraid to make mistakes, because everything is that learning. So yeah, we are going to get a lot of no's, whether it's someone else telling us no or ourselves telling ourselves no.
Yes.
It's part of the journey, and it's part of the appeal of startup land is just what you learn. And fortunate that this is not startup number one, because I've got a whole set of applied learnings that it's like, oh, I've been down this rabbit hole. This doesn't end well. So like, what can we do from an applied learnings? And like, again, the team that we've been able to amass with Libby, it's just such a passionate group. All are on board for this test and learn, and we don't know what we don't know. But it is the most exciting period I've ever had in wine. And it's just crazy to think that it doesn't involve alcohol.
That's awesome. I mean, and I think that your sentiment and your mindset is really refreshing. I think that and I think it comes from your experience. If I'm guessing, it's like you've been there, you've done it, and you're doing it to make a difference. There's so many people that immediately will say, "I'm looking for an exit." It's like, you just started. What are you doing? How are you going to exit, right? And it's like, also, how many exits actually happen, right? So
yeah,
it's wonderful to see you, approaching the world this way. I think that your spirit, you and John's spirit, clearly is going to attract, a lot of people. So thank you so much for your time today. I'm so glad that you all booked to come on the show. And hey, everyone, it doesn't matter if you're curious about NA, or you just love NA, or you just want to see a cool new brand, head over to drinklibby.com and check it out. They're expanding quickly, so get in, and you can have bragging rights about finding something new.
Killer. Thanks, Duncan.
Thank you so much. And that's a wrap of today's show. You can find John through Drink Libby. It's been a wonderful experience talking to you today. Don't forget, everyone, to subscribe, drop us a review, share the episode. Until next time, keep it fresh, keep it intentional, and keep pouring into your glass things that truly matter. Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.